What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Dylan here, back for another solo video. I know it's been a minute since I've done a solo video. I apologize, but I am here for the first of 3 videos that are going to come out right before the Super Bowl. Today is the which team is better, New England Patriots or Philadelphia Eagles. The next video will be a hype video for the Super Bowl, and my third one will be an interview with one of my buddies who is an Eagles fan. That'll come out right before the game, but 2 or 3 days before, so stay tuned for those other 2 videos. But today, talking about which team is better. The criteria is a little bit different from the other which team is better series. It's which player would I rather have on my own personal team. If I was going to pick a quote-unquote Pro Bowl of these 2 teams, who would I pick in terms of the better player? We're going to go through each position. On the offense, it's the regular 11 starters. On defense, it's the 11 best players. So some guys you're thinking are the starters technically won't be on here, but they're the 11 best players on the defense, and they match up well. So, like, the Patriots D tackle will go with the Eagles D tackle. It'll go like that. You'll understand when we get there. But this is a little bit of a different twist to it. There's a lot of players to go through when I was doing this one, so I thought that was the easiest way to go around it. I can't do the whole 53-man roster. We'll be here for days. But I think the 22 people you're going to see here, we're going to go about a minute for position. It'll be good. It'll be fun. Sit back and enjoy who I think are the better of these players. First off, we start off at the QB position. Tom Brady for the Patriots, Nick Foles for the Eagles. Nick Foles, has done a little bit better the last couple of weeks. He had a really good performance in the NFC Championship game, of course. But I got to go with Tom Brady, the clutch quarterback. He's done everything. 5-2 in the Super Bowl. What can you say? He's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the greatest player of all time. And he makes the Patriots organization that much better. No discredit to Foles. He's done an amazing job playing the backup role, and being in this situation is quite difficult for anybody. So the fact that he's even here is an extra bonus for him, but there's no way I could pick Nick Foles over Tom Brady. That's just how it goes. So the first one goes to Tom Brady. Next up at the running back position. Again, both of these teams have really good depth at the running backs, but I'm going with the 2 starters here. We got Dion Lewis for the Patriots and Jay Ajayi for the Eagles. This was a difficult one. Other than my next comparison, this was the hardest one to do on the offensive side, but I went ahead and got Dion Lewis on my team. I think he's very versatile. The Patriots obviously know how to win with him on the field. That's definitely something I want on my team, is a winning atmosphere, and Dion Lewis is very good at doing that. Jay Ajayi is a very good runner. He's a very good player, and I like him. But sometimes I'm just kind of questioning whether or not he could put in the full game. And Dion Lewis, I think, with Tom Brady is a very good combo that I would want on my team. A little bit better situation than if Jay Ajayi was there with Tom Brady. So no hate to Mr. Jay Ajayi, but if I want this guy on my team, I'm going to go with Dion Lewis. So, next we're at the wide receiver positions. We're at the number 1 receiver for both teams, Brandon Cooks and Alshon Jeffrey. This one was a very difficult one. This was the hardest one to do on the offensive side, but I ultimately went with Alshon Jeffrey just by a little bit. If you look at stats for this season, Brandon Cooks beats Jeffrey in a couple of categories. Jeffrey has more touchdowns. I went with Alshon Jeffrey because I like the talent that he brings, and I think he makes his quarterbacks better. The first half of the season, he was kind of used as a decoy, which did help the Eagles win games, and you could say that's a factor for him, but it did hurt his stats a little bit. But I think I gave the nod to him because I like what he brings. I think he brings a little bit of aggressiveness. I think with Cooks, he's used as a deep threat, but sometimes he's, I don't like the system that he's in. He's just used as that deep threat. He doesn't do any more for them sometimes. And while Cooks is a very good receiver, I think the Eagles use him better than the Patriots use Cooks. Next up, we have the 2 wide receiver 2s for the Patriots and the Eagles, Danny Amendola and Nelson Agholor. Nelson Agholor would be way down on my list if it was last season, but this season he has made a tremendous comeback. He's provided a lot of spark that I appreciate coming from him. He gives all the credit in the world for having a really bad season last year, but bouncing back. But the winner for me is Danny Amendola. I like the clutch factor this guy brings to the table. Obviously, with the loss of Julian Edelman, he has to step up as the second wide receiver. He does a very good job at that. I like the clutch factor that he brings, especially you've seen it in the playoffs. He's done a very good job at making it work. And I really like what Amendola brings. There's just some kind of passion, some kind of spark there that shows that Danny Amendola is very good. No discredit to Nelson Aguilar in his comeback year, but I think Danny Amendola gets the nod on this one. For the third wide receivers on both teams, we have Chris Hogan and Torrey Smith. Chris Hogan has been riddled with injuries this season. He played very well early on, got injured, has been kind of inconsistent here, but I think he gets the nod on this one because Torrey Smith is trash. I'm sorry, he used to be very good at one point, but I think most of the talent that I've seen out of Torrey Smith has gone away. At one point, he was ranked 114th out of the 118 possible receivers on Pro Football Focus. Why would I want that guy as my number 3 receiver? Chris Hogan, when he is good, is very good. He has his shining moments. Brady knows how to use Hogan well. And sometimes I'm questioning whether or not he can get the job done, but the touchdowns, he knows how to score touchdowns. He's a very good receiver at points, and I want that over Torrey Smith, who I honestly don't think is that good. So I got to pick Hogan on this one. At the tight end position, we have Rob Gronkowski versus Zach Ertz. This is one of those cases where Zach Ertz is a very good tight end. I would say probably top 3 or 4, but Gronk is number 1. So by default, I would go with Rob Gronkowski at the tight end. I'm sorry for that one. It kind of sucks. But Rob Gronkowski, he does a very good job at a lot of things. He's very powerful. He's very big. He knows how to get open. There's not a lot of times you're going to stop Rob Gronkowski, unless if you give him a concussion. Thank you very much, Barry Church. But Zach Ertz is very good. He had a breakout year this year. You know, we've always known the potential of Zach Ertz, but I think he made himself a top 5 tight end this year for sure. It just kind of sucks because now Foles is his QB, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for him to be as good. I think Carson Wentz helped on that. But Gronk is unstoppable. A lot of defenses have a lot of trouble stopping him. So I want Gronk on my team here. Now we're going to the offensive line. I apologize for the next 2 Eagles photos being in black and white. They just didn't render correctly, but this is the way it goes. So for the Eagles, we have Vaitai. Please do not make me pronounce his first name. And for the Patriots, we have Nate Solder. I'm going to go with Solder. I think with the Eagles, obviously if it was Peters, I would pick Peters. That's no question about that. But I think Solder does a decent job at the left tackle position. I got no problems with him. And I think he's a lot better than Vaitai. Like, Vaitai has hold his weight, I guess, but he has one of the lowest ranking Pro Football Focus grades that are eligible for these grades. And I don't want a guy like that. If Peters was going to be in this situation, I would pick him over Solder, but I think Solder does a pretty decent job, all things considered, at the left tackle. You know, guards well, doesn't allow too many sacks. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but over Vaitai, no doubt. Next up, we have the left guard positions. We got for the Patriots, Joe Thuney, and for the Eagles, Stefan Wisniewski. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. The Eagles' offensive line is pretty damn good, but again, just doesn't get the showcase here because I think Thuney is the better offensive lineman. I think both of these guys are kind of subpar, unfortunately. I think they are one of the weaker ones on both teams, but I think Thuney gets the nod just by a hair. I think he gets a couple more stops. You know, he puts a little pressure on the defensive line. Wisniewski, I don't think he's that bad. Like, I don't think he's the worst out there. I think he's better than Vaitai, but I think Thuney does a little bit more to compensate for his struggles. And I don't, you know, with Wisniewski, I don't think he makes that offensive line better. I think he hinders it. With Thuney, he's right around the same kind of level with some of these guys. So I'm taking Thuney on this one. Now for our 2 centers. For the Eagles, we have Jason Kelce. For the Patriots, we have David Andrews. I'm going to go with Jason Kelce on this one. The Eagles getting some love here. Jason Kelce is the best center in the league. I think Travis Frederick is very close, but I think Jason Kelce is the number 1 center in the league. David Andrews, you know, I think is an above-average center. I would place him in the top 10 for sure, but Jason Kelce does the most for his team when it comes to the center position. He is a very good center. The rest of the league needs to take notice of this guy because he has a lot of good things about him, a lot of strengths. He pushes the line forward, creates a lot of holes for his running backs like the Garrett Blount and Jay Ajayi to make. That's what makes him very talented. That's why you would give kind of the notch to running backs for the Eagles sometimes, because you got a guy like Jason Kelce that can push it and make these holes. He does a lot for this team. And while David Andrews does a very good job at what he does, Jason Kelce's number one. So I got to pick Kelce for my team. Now we have the right guard position for the Patriots. We have Shaq Mason. And for the Eagles, we have Brandon Brooks. On the offensive line side, this was the most difficult to pick because both are very good at what they do. But I ultimately went with Brandon Brooks. The Eagles' offensive line, I would say, is the best in the NFL. And I think it's majorly because of the right side of the line. You got Jason Kelce, Brandon Brooks, and Lane Johnson. I think they do a great job of making these holes for these guys and getting that kind of separation. I like what they do. Shaq Mason, I would literally put right behind Brandon Brooks in a conversation for right guards. Brandon Brooks is the best right guard, but he's a very above average right guard at what he does. And it really sucks for Shaq Mason because he did a very good job this year, but he had to get placed with the guy that's right above him. So I got to go with Brandon Brooks on this one, just by a hair. All right, last one for the offensive line. We have the right tackles for both teams. Lane Johnson for the Eagles, Cameron Fleming for the Patriots. And again, the Eagles take this one on the offensive line. Lane Johnson was obviously heavily recruited. They wanted this guy, the number 4 pick in the 2013 draft, and it has worked wonders for the Eagles, making themselves the best offensive line in the game. Cameron Fleming, I think, is an average tackle. I think he does his job decently. Like, he was right in the middle of the pack here. Lane Johnson just does a great job creating that outside edge for a lot of these good running backs that they have. You know, guys like Corey Clement use that very well. I like what he brings to the table, and I'm sorry to Fleming, but Lane Johnson's better. So on the offense, the Patriots got 7 players, and the Eagles got 4. Let's see how the defense does here. All right, first up for our defense is our left defensive tackles. We have Deatrich Wise for the Patriots and Fletcher Cox for the Eagles. And this one is a no-brainer for me. I'm picking Fletcher Cox. Deatrich Wise showed some of his potential. You know, he came up in those first couple of games. We're like, whoa, this guy's got some talent. You know, he was drafted in the 4th round, so people were kind of skeptical as what he was going to do, but he showed a couple of flashes. But I'm looking for a guy that is elite, and Fletcher Cox is elite. He is a great interior defenseman. I think he does a very good job at getting the pressure. I like what Fletcher Cox brings. He's got that edge. He's got that little bit of flair here, and I want that for my team, especially with the defense. I want pressure. I need as much pressure as I possibly can get. And with a guy like Fletcher Cox, you're going to get that. No offense to Deatrich Wise. He did surprise people with this season, but I'm going with the guy that's considered one of the best in the game, Fletcher Cox. Next up, we have the left defensive ends for both teams. For the Patriots, Lawrence Guy, and for the Eagles, Brandon Graham. This one, easy enough for me again, goes to Brandon Graham. Lawrence Guy, I think, is average, even maybe a little bit below average. I'm kind of surprised he's on a team like with Bill Belichick. I don't see Lawrence Guy as kind of that person. I think Brandon Graham is top tier talent here at the defensive end position. I think he does a very good job of getting pressure. He wants to get the job done. He gets the job done very well. I'm not saying Lawrence Guy doesn't want to get the job done, but I'm saying I think Brandon Graham is more efficient when it comes to being on this defensive line. I think the Eagles' defensive line is very good. Their front 7, I think, is very, very good. But in this situation, I think Brandon Graham shows himself a little bit more than Lawrence Guy. Lawrence Guy just doesn't have as much raw talent as Graham. So I'm going with Graham on this pick. All right, now we are at the right defensive tackles. For the Patriots, we have Malcolm Brown, and for the Eagles, we have Timmy Jernigan. This one was a pretty difficult one for me. I think they're both very good, but I wanted to know kind of their strengths. I asked Mitch, what do you got over this guy? What do you got over this guy? As a rush stopper, you got to go with Malcolm Brown, but as a pass rusher, you got to go with Jernigan. And I'm more the pass savvy kind of guy for a defensive type, so I'm going to go with Jernigan on this one. I like both of them. Malcolm Brown, Texas boy, went to Texas University. I think they're both very good at what they do. Malcolm Brown is more the bigger body. He's going to push that line a lot for the run, and I think he does well at that. But Jernigan, I want a pass rusher. I need somebody to get the job done, put the pressure on the offensive line to force a really bad throw, and I think Jernigan's going to get that done a little bit better than Malcolm Brown. So I'm going to go with Jernigan on this one. That's 3 in a row for the Eagles. All right, and for the last of the line, for our right defense ends, I should say, Trey Flowers for the Patriots and Vinny Curry for the Eagles. I like both of these guys. I think they're very good. You right on that second tier kind of level, I would say. I would gonna go with Trey Flowers on this one. This is one of the more even competitions when it comes to players. I think Vinny Curry is very good at some aspects here, but I think Trey Flowers is the more complete player, if you will. He's got one or two more tools to put him over Vinny Curry, which sucks. It could have been a sweep for the Eagles here on that line. But I think Trey Flowers does a good job of putting a little bit more pressure. He gets on the outside, gets a little bit more flashiness to him. And I think he just has a little bit of the edge more than Curry. So, while Vinny Curry is very good, I think Trey Flowers is a little bit better. So, go in with Flowers. Now we're at the linebacker crew. We got two linebackers here. We're going to go with the Landon Roberts for the Patriots and Nigel Bradham for the Eagles. I think this one's quite clear. It's Nigel Bradham. I think Landon Roberts might be the weakest player on these 22 players we're talking about. He might be the weakest of the 22. Maybe Vitae on the left side for the Eagles, but you could argue that he's consistently gotten better. I just don't think that Roberts is very good. Nigel Bradham has improved quite a bit from the last couple of seasons. Last year he started to pick it up. This year I think he did a very good job as well. It's like neither of these guys are considered elite by any means, but I think Bradham is stronger at reading the quarterback's eyes, getting a little bit more on pressure if he needs to make the tackles. I think he just does a little bit better than Roberts, and I don't think Roberts is very good. So I got to go with Bradham. For other linebacker comparison, we have Kyle Van Noy for the Patriots and Michael Kendricks for the Eagles. I like Kyle Van Noy. I think he's one of my personal favorites on the Patriots team, but I'm going to go with Michael Kendricks. I think he's the more complete linebacker. I've seen some weaknesses when it comes to Van Noy. He kind of gets burned from time to time. And Michael Kendricks, I think, is one of the more complete linebackers in the game. I just like the intensity that he brings out there. Not only is he very good at making tackles, which is obviously something key for a linebacker position, but inside that 5 to 10 yard range, he's quite honestly one of the best in the game. And Van Noy has his good moments, but he also has a lot of bad ones. And I'm going to take a guy that I see more as making little less mistakes in. And I think Michael Kendricks does a pretty good job at that. So I'm going to go with Michael Kendricks on this one. So far, 4 or 5 when it comes to the Eagles on defense. Should have said 5 or 6, my bad. All right, now we're at the defensive backs. We're here with the right cornerbacks to start off. Stephon Gilmore for the Patriots and Ronald Darby for the Eagles. This is another really good one where you're like, man, should I pick this guy or should I pick this guy? Wouldn't be a wrong answer on this one. But I picked Stephon Gilmore. He made a very great play at the AFC Championship game to solidify that win, sealed that victory for the Patriots. He was signed to the big contract for that reason. Obviously, he's been with the Bills for the past 5 seasons. Before this year with the Patriots, he was signed for plays like that, and I love that. Ronald Darby was injured for the first couple of games of the season and came back, made that defense a lot better, so one could argue he should be on this list. Not really a wrong answer here, but I like the talent that Gilmore has. I think he has the speed, he has the athleticism, he makes great plays. He's very consistent. I just picked Gilmore just a little bit over Darby. In some categories, Darby would have won, but I got Gilmore just barely. All right, for our left cornerback comparison, we have Malcolm Butler for the Patriots and Jalen Mills for the Eagles. I'm going to go with Malcolm Butler. I think Mills' inexperience kind of hurts him on this one. He did get a lot better as the season progressed. I was kind of skeptical as to whether or not that Eagles, defensive backs were going to be hurting or were they going to do well without Darby. And they proved themselves to be formidable players. But I think Malcolm Butler, obviously, there was a lot of trade value for him. They were considering trading him, obviously, for Brandon Cooks because, there's talent-wise, but he wanted to leave because he wasn't getting the money, because Gilmore was getting the money. And I feel for him. Obviously, he made the play of his career in the Super Bowl, but he's got the speed. He matches well against some of the best receivers in the game, and that's great to see if you're a Patriots guy. And that's great if I want to pick a guy like him. So for my team, personally, I got to go with Butler. All right, strong safety time. For the Patriots, we got Patrick Chung, and for the Eagles, we got Malcolm Jenkins. I like both of these guys. I think both of these guys are really, really good. Patrick Chung's one of the most underrated players on the defensive side of the ball in the game. Unfortunately, he's matched up against one of the best in the game, and that is Malcolm Jenkins. So I'm taking Malcolm Jenkins. I've had to deal with Malcolm Jenkins for a couple of years now. Obviously, he's a Cowboys fan, but I respect him. I respect him. He has this leadership role with him that I do like. If I'm a team, if I'm a coach, if I'm picking a guy, I like to see the Malcolm Jenkins that I see from week to week. He's very confident in what he preaches. And he's also very good. He backs it up on the field. He's very good at getting, contested passes. He's very good at making the right plays at the right times. Patrick Chung, great player. I would pick him against most of the guys in the league, but he matched up with Jenkins, so Jenkins wins. All right, now we're at the free safety positions. We got Devin McCourty for the Patriots and Rodney McLeod for the Eagles. I think both of these guys are very good at certain points, but I got to go with Devin McCourty. I really like what McCourty brings. He's got this fire. He's got this passion, this energy. He's one of the most underrated in the league as well with Patrick Chung. Like, these guys are very talented. It's pretty crazy that McCourty's been to an AFC Championship game every season he's been on the team. That's insane. But I think he just has a little bit better of a comparison when it comes to him and McLeod. McLeod beats him in a couple of categories, but I really like McCourty in his aggression. He's out there making, he sees the eyes of the quarterbacks very well. And I just think he has a couple of bit more points in the athleticism category than McLeod. Again, McLeod, not a bad player whatsoever, but I got to go with McCourty just a little bit. I like what I see out of McCourty here. And finally, we have one more comparison. A linebacker got taken off, so we could add another cornerback to this because we're doing the best 11 players from both teams. We have Eric Rowe for the Patriots and Patrick Robinson for the Eagles. Not a huge fan of either, but I'm going to go with Patrick Robinson on this one. Eric Rowe, he's just kind of like, to me, he's like my laughingstock for the Patriots. Like, he makes a play every once in a while, but he's not like the greatest of greats. Patrick Robinson, I see the talent. He just messes up a couple of times, and I like what he creates for the Eagles. He obviously got that interception, that pick six in the NFC Championship game. I just think he brings a little bit more to the table than Eric Rowe. No offense to Eric Rowe, but I'm not a big fan of him. I'm not really not. I like what I see out of Robinson a lot more than I see out of Rowe. All right, there you go. Those are the comparisons, and it turns out we have a tie for who I would pick on my team. 7 Patriots and 4 Eagles for the offense. 7 Eagles, 4 Patriots for the defense. So take that as you will. I technically didn't answer my own question, but let's go over the players that I would pick on my team. So for quarterback, Tom Brady. Running back, Deion Lewis. Wide receiver 1, Alshon Jeffrey. Wide receiver 2, Danny Amendola. Wide receiver 3, Chris Hogan. Tight end, Rob Gronkowski. Left tackle, Nate Solder. Left guard, Joe Thuney. Center, Jason Kelsey. Right guard, Brandon Brooks. Right tackle, Elaine Johnson. Now on the defense. Left defensive tackle, Fletcher Cox. Left defensive end, Brandon Graham. Right defensive tackle, Timmy Jernigan. Right defensive end, Trey Flowers. At linebackers, we got Nigel Bradman and Michael Kendricks. Right cornerback, Stephon Gilmore. Left cornerback, Malcolm Butler. Strong safety, Malcolm Jenkins. Free safety, Devin McCourty. And then our comparison between Rowe and Robinson at the cornerback, Patrick Robinson. So, yeah, it was a very good, comparison. I think they play well. The defense obviously favors the Eagles. The Patriots offense obviously favors them. So, take whatever I say with a grain of salt. If you don't agree with some of these picks, comment below. What do you think I got wrong? But be constructive, because I'm not one of those guys that likes the comments where, no. It's not really my thing. I don't want to target everybody out there, but I want to get your guys' feedback. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. It is Super Bowl hype. We got to hype up for the Super Bowl. It's a big game, obviously, so I'm very interested in what's going to go down with this game. Still got 2 more videos to pertain to this subject of the Patriots and the Eagles, so stay tuned for those videos and stay tuned for more content on the Bottom Line View. It's Dylan. Peace.